Welcome, all you beautiful thinking people, to Advocation X Biden. Remember, everything in these videos is opinion, but it's opinion based on facts, and not the alternative fact type either. So, this is all for entertainment purposes. Before we begin, hit that like button, subscribe, become a member, crush that bell. Don't miss anything going forward. We have a lot in store for you folks, so the topics that I'd like to dive into right now are Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's remarks after the verdict on Derek Chauvin for murdering George Floyd. Biden seemingly pulling back on some of his promises. Will the U.S. ever? The Justice Department under Biden. Way back I predicted a war. Is it inevitable? Or could it possibly be over before it starts? Looking for your suggestions. Let us dive in deep right now. I would have to say that Joe's comments on the verdict of the murder of George Floyd were actually effective. Very effective, actually. I think they spoke to the heart of this whole entire debacle. And I think some of the things he said are going to resonate deeply in all the right communities. When the next election comes, if nothing jumps in the way, I predict that Mr. Biden, President Joe Biden, if he does not do any of the other things that we're looking for him not to do, will actually garner a huge majority of the country behind him. He's been appealing in all kinds of ways to the Republican sector of the country, as well as the Democratic sector of the country, as well as the independent sectors of the country. His policies are majorly favorable among all people, a vast majority of all people. Kamala Harris's remarks were well received, and again, as I admonished in the very beginning of their reign, I did send out an open letter to Kamala Harris that she needed to repair some of the damages of her past. And that means she would have to go through with all of the great claims and aspirational messages that were being sent out before the election. Same with Joe Biden. But it seems that Joe Biden is pulling back on some of his promises. Now, he's given some fairly good, reasonable explanations for some of those pullbacks. Others, I believe, are politically motivated because he's looking to get some participation from these Republican senators and congresspeople. I think it's a good approach tactically, but I do not think, Joe, that your base is going to reward you for all of that unless you are extremely successful throughout these next 3.5 years or so. Pulling back on your promises is one thing. Doing it for really good, obvious reasons is another thing. But the ambiguity that lies in some of those slow actions or no actions at all is something that we're really going to be looking at very closely in the future. That means your constituents, the people who voted for you, the people who are rooting for you, the people around the world who are looking to you for leadership, you need to do the things that show that you are not a Trump 0.5, okay? I mean, it's okay if you're going to be a Trump 0.1 because there are some things that you have to still be a little bit of a hard butt on, but you really need to temper that with common sense and the fact that you want to be reelected. Will the US of A ever really turn around and become a true democracy? Will they ever actually give proper credence to the votes that come from all marginalized people, as well as the majority or the temporary majority? Remember that, guys. Temporary majority. So, you know what? Honestly, regardless of what you think, there's no way that the white supremacists in the United States of America are going to be able to keep the country white. The population among the white race is dwindling because you're not having babies. Do not blame other races for doing what we're put on the earth to do. That was to be fruitful and multiply. You're not being fruitful and multiplying. I don't know if it's because you can't. I don't know if it's because you can't find a woman to do it with, or a man to do it with, or another individual to do it with. Let me leave it at that. I'm thinking you guys really need to get your poop together and stop trying to force an issue that has no path to success. Your population is dwindling. If you stopped all immigration from coming into your country, you would become a second world nation very quickly. You would not be the world power. You would not be able to sustain the amount of money that you put into your military and other infrastructure. It just wouldn't happen. If you don't have the people and the labor base in order to put all that work in and to put their taxes on the line, you will crumble. Believe it, you will crumble. You have a huge infrastructure that takes a huge population to keep maintained. Go ahead. Go for it, white supremacists. Do your best. And I will watch from the sidelines, and later on I will say, I told you so. Considering the white supremacists, it's a very open question as to how hard will the Justice Department go after these factions of fringe, extremist elements that have no qualms about murdering people, about oppressing people, about leaving them in squalor. Like, just think, back in the day, how some farmers used to treat their pigs. Some of them were treating their pigs better than you treat your visible minorities in and around your country. I would say they treated all of their livestock better than they treated visible minorities. It seems that the only value they saw in visible minorities was the value of free labor, or very, very, very cheap labor. Keep them oppressed deep enough, they will take any job for anything you're willing to offer, and that will keep you rich. Here's a funny thought. I actually agree with you. But here's what I agree with. There is no way to be rich unless you oppress and keep other people poor. You cannot have 3 times the salary of somebody if there aren't 2 other people who are pretty well making nothing. I'm just sorry. That is just plain mathematics. So, yeah, you're right. If you want to maintain your lifestyle and be rich and above everybody, you need to oppress these people. All of them. Do you have any conscience at all? They're people. Have you ever watched a black, brown, or Asian mother giving birth, or indigenous, or white, or any other? Guess what? They all do the same. They all feel the same. They all produce the same. And that child is born clean and clear of bigotry and garbage from the moment they are born. How in heaven's name can you look at any one of them and say, well, because you were born in a blue sheet, you're not going to get treated properly. And your life is going to be treated as if it doesn't matter. We'll just kill you randomly if we want to. We'll terrorize your life every day of it if we want to. How can you, in your own mind, justify, well, that child was born with brown hair and we only like blonde hair, so therefore that child is going to be treated like garbage the rest of their life because they were born with hair they had no choice in. Anyways, how hard is that Justice Department going to end this garbage? Because you know what? It's about time. If you wish to show the world that you are a true leader in democracy and in justice, there is no alternative. Joe Biden's Justice Department needs to go long, hard, and strong against gangs, against white supremacists, against terrorism, against white-collar crime. They need to start putting white-collar criminals in jail. You cannot look at somebody who steals to feed his family and tell him he's going to spend 10 years in jail when you look at somebody who's stealing from millions of people. Millions are suffering because of the scandals of white-collar crime. If that is not fixed, if that does not become equitable, you will never achieve any level of peace within your borders. My opinion only, based on facts. Watch all the other regimes that tried it your way. They all became a thing of the past. Not only did they become a thing of the past, their leaders and royalty were hung, their throats slit, their heads put on stakes and displayed for everybody to know that if you wish to be a tyrant and if you wish to oppress your people, this will eventually be you. Well, I'm telling you, United States of America, all you senators and Congress people who are trying to oppress everybody else around you, try to maintain all extreme power over everybody, I'm just going to tell you, it's going to come your way. That was my prediction many years ago when you know who came down those escalators. Trumpet, remember? Coming down the escalators, starting his racist race to the bottom. Yeah. Well, I said it then and I'll say it again. There's quite the possibility of a massive, massive war coming to United States between its own people. Isn't that a wonderful way to end the reign of United States of America? Bring it out, folks. You will murder so many of your people. You will blow so much of your infrastructure. Your rebuilding process will be so long and so arduous that every other country will catch up and surpass your abilities in moments while you sleep. Go ahead. Push the race war. Push the divisions that you've been pushing all this time and see if my predictions don't come true. I predicted it years ago. As soon as I saw that individual and some of the things that were coming out of his mouth, I said exactly what was going to happen. I knew exactly who was going to come out of the woodwork. I knew exactly what kind of actions were going to begin happening. I knew about the law enforcement and how that was going to work. You'll see. Mark my words, folks. It's coming to a neighborhood near you if you don't stop the divisive garbage nature of your country. So here's my question to you, beautiful thinking people, you. Have you been spreading a positive message out there? Have you been trying to turn some of these horrible individuals around? No, let's not call them horrible individuals. Let's say these individuals that you know that have horrible morals and thought processes. Have you been out there just planting seeds? What is your path to averting the disasters that I see coming? What have you thought of that can quell some of the anger and the horrible passions that are flying? Give me your suggestions. Tell me your thoughts. How do we avert the pending disaster that I see coming? And I'm telling you, I see it as clear as the nose on your face. Okay, I can't see your face. As clear as the nose on my face. And believe me, I'm looking at it right now. Please, give me your suggestions. Give me your thoughts. Don't be afraid to express yourself. The problem in our communities now is that we don't have dialogue. Conversation has become a thing of the past. We're afraid to look at each other. We're afraid to talk to each other. And the super bad cold illness has made that triply bad. People are so terrified of each other that even walking down the street, I see people moving in the way of cars to get away from being like 3 feet from somebody who's passing them on a sidewalk. Remember the guidance from the CDC as well. You should be standing in front of somebody for about 15 minutes, yakking in their face with droplets flying back and forth, for there to be a really big chance that you're going to contract the disease. Stop acting like this is leprosy 2.0. Besides, most lepers were unable to spread anything. There were people working closely with them every day, never taking precautions, and never became lepers. Okay? We don't know, or I don't know, where that stupid disease came from, but I can tell you, this garbage does not come from melting glaciers and all these bacteria being released into the waters, and then they get to us. What about the fish? What about the animals on the shore? What about the plant life? What about everything else that gets touched by all this great super bug bacteria that gets released from all this bull crap? Come on, people, give your head a shake. I know my beautiful thinking people understand that it's worth taking a thought process to figure out, is that a real theory? Or is that just a bunch of bogai? Guys, it's bogus, in my opinion. The glaciers are not releasing these things. Leprosy did not come from the glaciers. Ebola did not come from the glaciers. HIV did not come from the glaciers. All of these things that we have been looking at as pandemics and epidemics and all this other good stuff did not come from the melting ice cap. Please, people, come on. Let's get with it. Seriously, let's get with it. It's time for you guys to step up. Touch another person. Let them know your thoughts. Ask them how they feel. Ask them what it's been like growing up as them. Now, again, I think I'm going to do a personal video that will probably follow this. And I want to give you guys a few lesson builders based on the circumstances of my life and how I lived it. I'm going to give you a perspective from a real human being who's lived in a world where things are not always as they seem. So, folks, remember something. I never give up, and I never give in. And I'm asking you to do the same. Because why? Because that's the only way we can use our open mind to gather knowledge, gain wisdom, and do things that are going to further our lives in a positive way. Do your research. Don't follow blindly like a lemming. Don't fall off the cliff. And once again, thank you very much for spending time with us here on this channel. We hope that you'll follow us all the way into the future of our success and that we can succeed together. So, stay healthy, stay safe, and above all,